Hello, hello. Good morning, Mastery crew. It is just me today, so we're not going to have John's face jumping on here, John's mug to interrupt our session, but I still wanted to come on here and tell you guys a couple of quick things. I labeled this as I did for a reason. I called it the number one reason that people will or will not work with you. And that reason is your allocation of time. I actually just spoke about this the other day at an event down in Texas. And I think it is so incredibly important to understand how much it matters the way that you do or do not control your time. And so today I'm going to give you three real ways to get better at managing your time, because across the thousands of agents that John and I have collectively coached, this is probably one of the biggest issues that people run into. They either do not know where to spend their time throughout the day. And so you wake up and you enter every single day as sort of like, okay, I'll put some time here, I'll put some time here. Some days it feels like you're full time and you're crushing it and you're doing all these things. And then the next day it feels like you don't even know what to be doing, where to be spending your time, where to be directing your efforts. So that is one of the biggest things that we hear. Or you maybe are the agent who is so drowning in all of these tasks and all of this busy work that's not actually moving the needle forward in your business, but you feel like you're constantly bogged down, you're constantly running behind schedule, and there just does not seem to be enough hours in the day. And so the three things that I want to talk about today will hopefully help free you from those bounds and actually take control of your time, because it truly is the most important reason why people will or will not like to work with you. If you're not somebody who can manage their time well, who holds themselves to a certain standard, who keeps their own set of boundaries within their time restraints, then you will not earn the respect. And honestly, a lot of the clients that you want to work with probably won't be jumping at the opportunity to be with you as well. So number one is understanding the EAC. So this is something that we talk a lot about within Real Estate Mastery. EAC stands for expectation, agreement, and consequence. And so often people, especially agents, we get into this mindset or this routine of constantly being a slave to what other people say or need from us at all times. It's this constant rat race of drop everything if somebody wants to see something. And I will say there's a lot of importance behind like being prompt and responding to things and calling a lead as soon as it comes in. And this kind of stuff does matter, but it's also important to have the boundaries. I have some of the agents that we work with who say that they're only going to work a couple of hours each day. And that's their hard boundary because they prioritize maybe hanging out with their family. They spend a lot of time their kids. I have some of my top agents that we work with homeschool 4+ children all day, and they're also very successful agents. And the reason for that is because of the way that they set the expectations. They get an agreement from anybody that they work with, meaning, hey, this is the boundaries for which I work within. Is that going to work for you? You get their verbal affirmation, their verbal confirmation that they agree to the expectations that you've set. And then you outline what the consequence will look like if they don't respect that boundary. And I don't mean consequence in the way that you'll punish them, but consequence will just mean, hey, if you contact me outside of those hours, just know I'll get back to you tomorrow within those same working hours, because that's the boundary that I've set for myself. And so obviously use it within reason, but it's really important to understand that you do have control over that. And the more clear you are with setting the expectation from the beginning, the more that people will respect that. And I hear from some people that they get nervous to share that information or nervous to set a boundary because somebody might just go work with someone else. And though that could be the chance or could be the possibility, there's also a lot of people that will choose and elect to work with you because of it. I have a good friend of mine who is an incredible mother of two, and she has that first conversation with anybody before she begins working with them. She outlines what that time looks like. And she explains why, because her kids always come first. She wants to be able to be there to cook them dinner every single night, all of these kind of things, or attend soccer games on Saturdays or whatever it looks like. She outlines that from day one, and she has won multiple clients as a result of that because she properly uses EAC. So expectation, agreement, and consequence is a powerful tool that you can use when setting your own boundaries. The next thing is I want you to look at how productive you're truly being within the hours that you're spending on the things that you're doing. So often, and this is just the reality of our world these days, we're constantly distracted. We live in a world where you've probably right now got 75 tabs open across the top of your screen. You've got your phone that's blowing up with social media notifications, text messages, phone calls. You're listening to music. You're doing this. We've got this highly distracting environment that we're in. That's just normal. That's just the way it works these days. And so it's important to understand how to really fine tune your focus and make the most of the hours that you spend. I personally love to use a strategy, and we teach this a lot within Mastery, of using a Pomodoro timer. So there's different increments in which you can set it, but traditionally it's going to be 25 on, 5 off. Some people do 20 on, 10 off, or you can break it down even further. But you can actually find them online free. You can type in Pomodoro timer free, or you can get a physical one off of Amazon if you wanted to, or you can, of course, just use a timer on your phone. But it helps a lot to train your focus. And so the tool is basically that you would sit down for 25 minutes, uninterrupted, put that phone on do not disturb, and knock out exactly what the task is at hand, so that you're actually eliminating things from your plate. You're actually checking them off the to-do list instead of just continuing to push them into next week's to-do list and next week's to-do list. And it's circling, and now you've had something on your to-do list since February of last year, and it still just keeps getting pushed because you're not actually finishing tasks. You're not actually being as productive as you could be with the time that you've allocated to something. And so that's a really great way to start training your mind to focusing on the tasks at hand. And then in that 5 minutes off, use that time not to hop on social media and start scrolling through TikTok or whatever you resort to, but take that 5 minutes to do something that brings you back to center, whether that's grabbing some water, drink some water, get outside, walk around a little bit, go say hello to family, whatever it is. In that 5 minutes, try to do something that includes unplugging from your phone, not jumping onto social media, because that can create massive distraction. So it's a lot more important to focus on how you can train yourself to be more focused. And as you do it over and over and over, you'll start to realize that it does get easier. You don't have to have all of those tools in place in order to be somebody who actually is massively focused. That's tool number 2, is try using those different timer methods so that you can start training your focus. Because the reality is, and I say this all the time, we have something we teach inside of Mastery called the 3x5. The 3x5 is spending 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, and 1 hour is on prospecting, 1 hour is on calling your leads, and 1 hour is on follow-up. And if you were to only spend those 3 hours only 5 days a week, you would have massive transformation in your business. And yet so few people just simply allocate that time, especially if you don't have active business that you're working right now. Those 3 hours could set you up for the remainder of the year as far as deals to work if you just set aside time to do that. And so the point and the concept of that to really wrap your head around is that you could choose 3 hours in your day, hyper focus on those 3 hours, make sure that at least one of those 3 hours is money-making activities and things that are moving the needle forward in your business. And if you were to do that, you'd be setting yourself up far beyond what most agents in your market probably are. And so I hope what you're pulling from that is that it's more about the productivity that you spend, or like what you really spend that time doing, rather than how much time you're doing it. People love to do the whole, oh, I hustle for 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. To me, that's not impressive. Unless those 14 hours, you're absolutely maxing out every minute of it. To me, that just says that you're not being as productive as you could be in that time. So I challenge you guys to kind of assess how productive you're truly being in the time that you're spending working, because it will probably help you get some of that time back to spend doing the other things that bring you joy, whether it's time with family, working out, going and doing these other things will come from creating that freedom by focusing harder and being more productive within those hours. So that's our tip number 2. And the last and final one that I will leave you guys with today is to look at your calendar. If you are not somebody who currently time blocks, hello, my name is Tessa. I am the craziest time blocker that you'll meet. But it's really important to use your calendar to block out time. And here's the tip that I want you guys to understand. There's kind of 2 parts to it. Number 1 is the color coding of your calendar. Now, you may tune this out a little bit if you're not currently using a calendar. Don't get overwhelmed. I want you to start using it more than anything. But I actually color code pieces of my calendar on things that are for my personal joy, for my personal health, for my money-making activities, for my follow-up, for all these kind of things, have a different color so that when I look back and reflect on my week, I can see not even just based off of what's in the schedule, but color-wise, I can look back and see if I was way skewed and I'm really low on that money-making activity and those colors do not exist in my calendar that week. That shows me that I was missing something really important. And so then going forward into the next week, I can specifically make more time for those money-making activities. So it's important to use the calendar and not just use it for future-facing things, which is what most people will use their calendar for, but also use it as the point of reflection. When you're sitting there on Sunday and you're reflecting on the past week and you're setting up yourself for the following week, what is it that you can look back on and see, oh, well, I spent a lot of time prospecting and that was great, but I didn't spend any time on my mental health, on my physical health, on the other things that keep this whole operation rolling. Because I promise you, for 1 week or 2 weeks or maybe even a month, that kind of stuff can be okay. But after a period of time, if you're not making the time for those other pieces of your wheel of life, of really being a holistic approach to elevating your life, then it will start to catch up with you. And then 6 months down the road, if you weren't prioritizing your physical health for 6 months, that's when you can start to see some of the negative repercussions. Same thing is true in your relationship. Imagine if you neglected that for 6 months and you weren't allocating any intention or any attention to it, that would start to crumble after a period of time. Same is true with your finances, with your career, with your mental health, with every single category. It's important that you're doing some reflection on the previous week to see how much time you've allocated to that to make sure that it's not falling off the radar. So those are my 3 tips for you guys today. Again, I really want to emphasize that time allocation and how you manage your time, how you set your boundaries, how you focus, and how you manage and reflect what you've spent your time on previously can make a world of difference as far as your success, but ultimately your fulfillment. And that's really what it's all about. John and I have preached that since day one, that it all comes down to not just making more money, but having fun while you do it. We want you to make more money and we want you to make more memories. And only that can happen if you're using your time properly and if you're setting your boundaries to do so. So I hope that those 3 tips are something that you guys can take and apply to your day today. Start doing it now. Don't say you'll start next week. Start doing it now. And we will see you guys next week for our weekly live Tuesday coaching. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.